Hello everybody, Merry Christmas. I hope you're having a great Christmas period. Today though, I'm looking ahead to the January transfer window and I'm pulling out one perfect transfer, January edition, for every major European club. Let's get on with it, guys. Lots to get through. First up, I'm going to kick off with Real Madrid. Now, they have had a really challenging last couple of months. A recent little upturn in form again, but they are still 4 points behind Barcelona, given the fact they were 5 points ahead of them in early November, having won El Clasico, giving them an advantage in head-to-head. They'll be really troubled by that. They currently don't have a fit right-back. Fede Valverde is having to play there. They've got an attack in which Kylian Mbappe has scored 29 goals this season, which is 24 more than anyone else. But their big issues have to be at centre-back right now. David Alaba has only been fit to play 56 league minutes this season. Tony Rudiger's missed a number of games as well. Dean Huijsen has been injured at points and suspended. Alvaro Carreras has had to play at centre-back. They desperately need a centre-back, I would say, this January. And if they could do it, and I do have some doubts about it, I think they should sign Marc Guehi. Now, I have my doubts, which I've voiced on numerous shows, both within Sky and on The Truth, that Marc Guehi would want to move in January. Crystal Palace are absolutely flying in the Premier League right now, despite that disappointing result against Leeds last weekend. That 4-1 defeat there, but they're still in touching distance of an automatic Champions League spot for next season. They've got a very decent chance of going pretty far in the Conference League as well. Does Marc Guehi want to uproot himself, his family, his situation, and join a new club of the pinnacle or the calibre of Real Madrid in January, with all the pressure that comes there? 6 months out from a World Cup where he's almost, I would say, guaranteed to start. I think he's the one centre-back. You're looking at probably Konza and maybe John Stones if he gets a move in January, competing for that second slot alongside him. But Marc Guehi feels pretty nailed on. Would he want to go change his situation so drastically in January? I have my doubts, but if they could do it, Real Madrid that is, and by persuading them with, say, a £30 million offer, given the fact they'll lose him for free in the summer, then I think they should do it this January if possible. Because quite simply, Marc Guehi is good enough to play for Real Madrid. I strongly believe that. They were very interested in signing Ibrahima Konate up until a few months ago, given his collapse in form. They've changed their approach away from him. There are actually reports that they are not looking at Marc Guehi, but Marc Guehi is being chased by Bayern Munich. He's being chased by Liverpool. He is easily good enough, and actually with the right level of experience and quality, to instantly make a difference in that backline, especially given the fact that Eder Militao, their outstanding peak age centre-back, let's say, is out until April time. Marc Guehi, very solid in the tackle, very good in the air, can play a number of roles in a backline as well. Could play on the right-hand side or the left-hand side of a back four. I think if Real Madrid could do this, it would make a massive, massive difference to their title pursuit this year, their chances of winning the Champions League, which look unlikely at the moment, and for years to come, potential titles as well. Do you think they can get it done in January? I'm a little bit unlikely. I don't think it's necessarily nailed on, but if they could, I think they should get it done. Stop right there if you're enjoying this video but you haven't yet subscribed. Why don't you rectify that, guys? Smash that red button. On with the video. Let's head over to Bayern Munich now and Bavaria, where Alphonso Davies is back from injury. He's made 3 appearances now on his comeback from that long-term injury, totaling 48 minutes. His comeback game was against Sporting CP. He's made 2 other appearances off the bench since. Rafael Guerreiro is out of contract this summer. With these 2 players out of favour at the moment, Guerreiro hasn't really featured at left-back so far this season. Vincent Kompany has played Konrad Laimer there on occasion. He's played Josip Stanisic. Ito played there at the weekend as well. But you feel like with Laimer having been so excellent at right-back, but nominally a midfielder, and with Sacha Boey not really trusted to play at right-back, you could probably do with a fullback that could play both sides. And I don't think there's one better at the moment that can play as comfortably on both sides as Tino Livramento. He would be an amazing signing for Bayern Munich. He is approaching 100 games for Newcastle since joining them in 2023. He's got 1 goal and 3 assists in 96 games. You'd actually expect those numbers to be a little bit higher, given the amount of danger that he can cause to an opposition backline with that running from deep, with that picking up of positions. He has had a few injury issues over the last few years. He's missed 24 games, I think, over the last 2.5 seasons. That's a little bit of a worry. But you watch this guy in person, which I had the privilege of doing in that derby win against Newcastle. And it's easy to say now we won that game, but Tino Livramento, so light, so agile, brilliantly tight turning circle. He is very effective on either side as well. Looks like he's got a decent chance of starting at left back for England at the World Cup. Obviously, nominally a right back as well. Could see him even potentially pushing forward into midfield on occasion as well. It looks like Man City are going to come back in for him next summer. I really struggle to imagine that transfer being dead in the water. But if Bayern Munich could somehow get ahead of them this January, I think it'd be an amazing fit for their backline. And look, these are perfect signings this January window. Are Newcastle going to sell Livramento in January? It would take a monster offer. They are still in with a shout of qualifying for the last 8 of the Champions League, or being in the top 8 to go through to the last 16 automatically. They are struggling somewhat in the league. I think they're down in 12th. They are in an absolute dogfight to even get into European contention this season. They need their best players. They've already dealt with the sort of emotional loss of Alexander Isak and the blow that causes to squad morale. Where do they think they're going, etc. Losing Livramento in January would be a terrible look for Newcastle United. But if Bayern Munich come in January with a big offer, not saying they necessarily can or will, I think Tino Livramento would be really tempted by that. I think he could start on either flank for them. Alphonso Davies would obviously be the left back going forward, you'd have thought. But as he works himself back to full fitness, Livramento's got a decent chance of starting there. And then at right back as well, Lima could then push back into midfield, cover Livramento at right back if he does pick up a few more injury issues going forward. I think he'd be amazing for Bayern Munich. Do I see it being done in January? Probably not, but it is a perfect suggestion in my opinion. Let's stick in the Bundesliga for now and talk about Borussia Dortmund, because they potentially have a huge player in their starting 11 who is leaving this summer in Julian Brandt. Now, I absolutely love Julian Brandt. He's been one of my favourite Bundesliga players for the last decade or so, first with Bayer Leverkusen, then Borussia Dortmund. He's been a phenomenal servant for the club, scored a brilliant goal at the weekend as well. Go and check that out if you haven't already. Brilliant volley taken on the full. But this is a player that 7 years has kind of had an effect on his body somewhat. He's maybe not as sharp as he once was. It doesn't feel like Nico Kovac sees him as an absolute nailed on first name on the team sheet anymore. And Borussia Dortmund really need to look at their creativity. I believe they rank 6th in the Bundesliga for goals this season. Pascal Gross, their most creative central midfielder, he's being phased out somewhat. So I think Borussia Dortmund need to sign someone in January that can help far them up the table, close that gap to Bayern, and really push away from the likes of RB Leipzig and Bayer Leverkusen as it stands, because it's a real dogfight between 2nd and sort of 7th in the Bundesliga right now. And I think a player that could make an enormous difference for them on loan this January, Nwaneri. Now, Arsenal fans won't be delighted with this suggestion whatsoever. I'm sure they'd want to keep him as a backup for the rest of the season. He's only played 166 minutes in the Premier League. He's played just over 100 minutes in the Champions League. You look at the right-hand side with Bukayo Saka now. They've got Noni Madueke to back him up there. You look centrally, Eze, Odegaard competing for that 10 spot. Is Nwaneri going to get serious minutes between now and the end of the season, especially given their attack is also being strengthened by the returns of Havertz, who could also play in midfield? You know, shortening the amount of minutes that could be potentially had by Nwaneri in midfield. Gabriel Jesus is back as well. Miko Marino will probably play more in midfield. Is Nwaneri going to pick up serious minutes between now and the end of the season? I'm not so sure. Would Arsenal want to take the risk of loaning him out in January? I doubt it. But would he be an amazing pickup for Borussia Dortmund? I think absolutely. Last season, he played around 900 league minutes. He was at 0.24 expected goals and assists per 90. He was at 2.4 shots per 90. He created just under 2 chances per 90. But it was really his dribbles completed that really stood out amongst the rest of Europe. He was at 3.7 dribbles completed with a 60% completion rate. That is absolutely outstanding, especially given his age. He's playing in congested midfield zones. He's playing out on the right-hand side, trying to take on more of the creative burden of Bukayo Saka as well. It was so impressive, given the fact he made his debut, or started playing regularly at least, at the start of last season. By the end of it, he was actually relied upon in various big games as well. So it feels like Nwaneri would jump at the opportunity, if he could, to go to Borussia Dortmund in January. I think Dortmund would love to make this happen. Look at the success of other Premier League loanees they've had, like Chukwuemeka and Selmino this season as well. Look at Joe Bellingham there, potentially helping him out with that adaptation to the Bundesliga. Would Nwaneri be interested in going to Borussia Dortmund? Potentially, for 6 months. 6 months is all I'm suggesting, guys. Arsenal, there's no way in hell that they sell this guy permanently. Would Dortmund be keen on bringing him in? Yes. Would Arsenal allow it? I'm not so sure. But as I said at the top of the video, it's perfect signings for this January. I think he would be phenomenal in the Bundesliga. Let's head over to Italy now, and I want to talk about Napoli. Now, for me, their big issue going forward in this titanic title race for the Scudetto, by the way, where they're only 2 points behind Inter, they're 1 point behind Milan. Their big issue for me is their attack, and that is down to 2 key reasons, and much of it is injury related. Lukaku hasn't really been fit at all this season so far. In fact, he's now entering back into that squad but hasn't played so far this season. De Bruyne has been out with a long-term hamstring injury. That's your best finisher and your top creator in that squad. That's going to have an effect for sure. But at the moment, Inter Milan have scored 12 more goals than them. They rank 6th in Italy for chances created. They kind of need to address that if there is a decent chance of them, whether they're playing in multiple competitions or not, because their Champions League form has been so poor. If they want to maintain that title challenge for the rest of the season, I think they need to sign a midfielder with creativity in him. Step forward, 27-year-old PSV midfielder Joey Veerman. Now, this guy's contributed over 90 goals and assists in 178 games for the club. He's contributed over 9 league goals and assists in his 3 full seasons at PSV. That peaked at 21 the year before last. This guy can play as an 8. He can play even further forward as a 10. He's got an excellent eye for pass. He can retain possession. This is a guy that I can imagine playing alongside Kevin De Bruyne when he returns from injury, playing instead of Kevin De Bruyne until he's back. He can play in a variety of different roles. Antonio Conte's used Scott McTominay wide left on occasion. Maybe he could continue to do that. But Joey Veerman feels like at the right age, the right experience level, coming off a great season so far with PSV, who are running away with the Eredivisie title. Would they consider letting him go in January? Well, they might have to, because he's got a release clause in his contract. Fenerbahce are supposedly, reportedly, close to activating that release clause. I think it's in the low 20 million euros mark or so. That would be a devastating blow. I think he's far too good to go to Fenerbahce right now in his career. I think he could make a difference in a top 5 league. Napoli feels like a really nice landing spot. Hopefully that deal isn't done before this video goes live. But either way, I will be tweeting about it if it does, because I think he's far too good for Fenerbahce right now. They've already got Marco Asensio shining in his potential position. Take a pause, man. Napoli, other clubs around Europe, I'm sure no doubt would come in for you. Even Premier League clubs as well. Take a pause, take stock in January. Don't rush it, but if the little donkeys or the partner pay come in for you, head over there. I think you could make a massive difference to their title challenge. That's because his underlying numbers are absolutely exceptional. He ranks 1st in the Eredivisie for shot creating actions, passes into the final third, passes into the box, progressive passes. He ranks 2nd in the Eredivisie for chances created. He completes over 3 defensive actions per 90. He's very, very solid in the air as well. He's got experience at international level with the Dutch national team. Oh, please, Joey. If you ever watch this video for some weird coincidence, don't go to Turkey. Go over to Naples. I think you could be a real hero there. Let's head over to Barcelona, and everyone knows what their issue is so far this season. It's that balance between attack and defense, and I will get into some reasons behind that in due course. But yes, they've got that buffer over Real Madrid at the top of La Liga, but 6 sides have conceded fewer than their 20 league goals to date. There are 2 sides in the Champions League, in the top 19 sides, that have conceded more goals in the Champions League than them. They haven't got that balance right whatsoever. And that's partly down to Rafinha's injuries. He is one of their lead pressers, one of the most impressive forward pressers in the entirety of Europe, I would say. He's been out injured for much of the campaign. Inigo Martinez leaving in the summer late on. That didn't leave them enough time to sign a replacement. Andreas Christensen's now out for a long time. Ronald Araujo's form and fitness has been really up and down. I think they need to sign a centre-back. They are looking at left-sided centre-backs. Pau Torres is a name that's been mentioned. Nico Schlotterbeck has also been mentioned, and if I was them, I would go for the German. Pau Torres' contract runs until 2028. Villa are only 3 points off Arsenal in the Premier League title race. Dortmund aren't going to win the Bundesliga this year. They'll expect and maybe hope to go deep in the Champions League, given how well they've played pretty well, I would say, in that competition to date. Would they want to let Schlotterbeck go? Absolutely not, but this is a necessity for Barcelona. If they could somehow free up some space in their finances this January. It would make a massive, massive difference to their Champions League hopes and La Liga title hopes as well. In the last few games, they've had to play a left-back in Gerard Martin at centre-back, and he's actually played pretty well there. But alongside Kubasi, that is not a centre-back duo that wins the Champions League. And I think there is a side in that, when everyone is fully fit, at least midfield and attack-wise, to win a Champions League. But they haven't got the balance right so far. Supposedly, Dortmund are looking for around 50 million euros to sell Schlotterbeck. Supposedly, he's paid around 14 million euros per year. Bayern Munich, Real Madrid are also interested. You imagine Liverpool would probably enter the fray as well if they're looking for a long-term Van Dijk replacement, given the fact he can play on that left-hand side so effectively. He's an excellent carrier with the ball. He's a very good passer from deep. In fact, he ranks in the top 1% of centre-backs for progressive passes completed over the last 365 days. Very, very complete player. An amazing amount of experience in the Bundesliga now and with the German national team. If Barcelona could somehow get this done in January, and look, I think it's one of the most fanciful transfers I'm going to suggest in this entire video, I think they should do it. Inter Milan, John Stones. This is a guy that is 31 years old. He'll be 32 in May. It's definitely not a long-term proposition for Inter Milan, but this is a guy that's really not featuring very much for Man City at all in any competition this season. He's played 453 league minutes. The vast majority of those league minutes came in the first 3 games of the season, where they lost 2 of those games. John Stones didn't actually play particularly well in those games. He's kind of dropped ever since. They've signed Kusanov and Heiss in January last year. They're obviously looking beyond him. He is out of contract this summer. He hasn't even been in their squad for their last 3 games. If, say, an Inter Milan came in with a 10 million, 15 million pound offer for John Stones in January, would he, A, be interested in that move, given the fact that he probably needs minutes before potentially going to the World Cup next summer? I think he'd be interested. Would Man City rather 10, 15 million pounds for him rather than lose him for free next summer? Yes, I would have thought so. And could Inter Milan do with him? Absolutely. Inter are pretty well stocked in every position now, particularly their forward line compared to last year. Massive difference there. Short of a major departure, I don't actually think they've got any huge holes in their squad that need to be fixed in January. But looking ahead, centre-back is definitely the area I would look at. Acerbi is 37 now. De Vrij, 33. He's barely featuring. They need to look beyond those guys. And yes, John Stones isn't a long-term option for the next 10-15 years, but look at how well Inter have prolonged the careers of Çalhanoğlu and Mkhitaryan and Acerbi and even Jan Sommer in goal. I think John Stones would be really sensible to take the option of going to Italy and playing in this side, maybe mentoring the likes of Jan Bissek, who's looked a little bit error-prone this season, playing alongside the likes of Alessandro Bastoni. Can you imagine the passing competence in that backline if you've got Bastoni, Stones and Akanji? Absolutely insane. I would love to see this happen. This is a guy whose tackle success rate hasn't dropped below 60% since 2018-19. He's completed over 90% of his passes year on year ever since joining Man City. He's been capped over 80 times by England. He's won 6 Premier League titles. He's won a Champions League title. Inter Milan for 10, 15 million pounds. And this goes for Juventus. It goes for Milan too as well. I think John Stones in Italy in the centre of a back 3, absolutely magnificent potential January signing. You should all be on this, but I'd love to see this happen for Inter. Let's talk all things PSG now. Now, their big issue in the last few months or so has been Achraf Hakimi's injury. He was injured right up until AFCON. He's now at AFCON until mid-January. In his absence, Warren Zaire-Emery has had to play at right back. That's far from ideal. They've also had a number of injury issues at centre-back as well. João Neves has missed games. Number of injury issues up front. It hasn't been an easy campaign for PSG whatsoever, but they do need to sign a backup right back to Achraf Hakimi going forward. Now, this is a really difficult position to fulfill. Achraf Hakimi is one of the best in the world in his position, I should say. Does anyone want to go at peak age to become backup to Achraf Hakimi? Not if you've got probably ambitions to become one of the best players in the world, but if you're in your mid to late stage of your career, being a backup at PSG, where you're pretty much guaranteed to win trophies year on year, is very, very attractive. And that's why I think they should look at Celta Vigo right back, Oscar Mingueza. The 26-year-old came through at La Masia. He made 66 appearances for Barcelona before leaving for Celta Vigo in 2022 for just 3 million euros. Now, they have seen an amazing return on investment. He's been a consistent starter there for the last 2 seasons there, and his goal and assist numbers really, really impressive. First year as a regular starter, it was 4 league goals and assists. Last campaign, up to 10. This is a guy that can make the difference in terms of a final ball or threading the pass through, etc., linking with his teammates in the final third. just like Hakimi. I think he'd be a great pickup for PSG. Now, Celta Vigo are in a decent position. They're actually 7th in La Liga. In recent weeks, they've beaten Real Madrid, they've beaten Athletic Club. But Oscar Mingueza is out of contract in the summer, like John Stones. Would they be happy to let one of their better players leave for free when they could collect a fee for him, whether it's 10, 15, 20 million pounds for him this January? I think they'd rather see the money come through, if I'm totally honest. And Oscar Mingueza, I think, has the quality to be a backup to Hakimi at PSG. This season, he's at 0.22 expected assists per 90. That is the same as Luis Diaz of Bayern Munich. It's the same as Dybala of Roma. It's more than Declan Rice, who is on set pieces at Arsenal. And this guy's doing it from right back. He can also play as a centre-back as well. He even, at times for Barcelona, had to play in midfield. I think this sort of versatility would be really useful for a PSG side that have struggled so far with fitness. He's actually 13th in the entirety of Spain and 2nd amongst right backs for passes into the box. So he definitely has the eye for a pass that would be so useful to play in the likes of Dougie, Kavisha, Barcola, Dembele, etc. I think this is a very cheap, sensible move that they should get done in January. Let's go back to Italy now and talk about all things Milan. Now, supposedly they are close to finalising a loan move for Nicolas Füllkrug, who has really struggled fitness-wise at West Ham. Apparently it's going to be a loan move with a 13 million euro or between 13 and 15 million euro option to buy. I find that incredibly underwhelming, if I'm totally honest. And look, Santiago Jimenez has picked up an injury. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks. There's speculation that he might too leave, at least not, if not in January, maybe in the summertime as well. They've still got Leao, they've got Pulisic, they've got Nkunku that can play centrally, but Allegri is generally favoured a 3-5-2 this season. They have got midfield options for days, but I just think they are short somewhat of some quality up front. And I think the player they should look at instead of Nicolas Füllkrug on loan is actually try and sign Dennis Undav of Stuttgart permanently. This is a guy that has excelled for Union Saint-Gilloise, did well for Brighton. He's now in his 3rd season, I believe, with his 1st year on loan at Stuttgart. And his goal return, really, really impressive. Close to a goal every 2 games. He's been brilliant. In his 1st year, he contributed 18 goals and 9 assists in the league alone. That did drop off slightly last year, but this year, right back at it. He's at 8 goals in the Bundesliga in just 11 games to date. He actually ranks 8th in the entirety of Europe's top 5 leagues for goals per 90. That puts him between Ferran Torres, who's having a great goal-scoring season for Barcelona, and Rafinha. That is the level this guy is operating at in terms of his finishing this season. I think he had the potential to be a really smart signing for Milan in this January. This season, he has overperformed his XG by 3.2, but he's done that throughout the entirety of his career. He's just an excellent finisher. His 3.2 overperformance is actually the same as Erling Haaland and Antoine Semenyo. And it's not a surprise that he's getting so many opportunities because this is the guy that takes over 5 shots per 90. That is the most in Europe's top 5 leagues. The guy's contract, Dennis Undav's contract that is expiring in 2027. So Stuttgart were likely to come to a situation where they probably have to sell him next summer or force him to extend his deal or let him leave for free in 2027. So I did think there was an opportunity for Milan to say offer 25, 30 million euros to Stuttgart if they could afford to do so, and they came to the table this January. I think it would have been a far better use of money than trying to sign Nicolas Füllkrug, nurse him back to full health when he's missed the vast majority of this season with injury. I think this is a missed opportunity. Undav to Milan, that was my transfer for January. From Milan to Juventus, let's chat about Juve's winter window options. Now, this is a club that aren't notorious for spending big money in January. They've actually only spent more than 30 million euros on a winter signing twice. Dusan Vlahovic when he joined from Fiorentina, and Dejan Kulusevski when he joined from Atalanta after that great loan spell with Parma. I think you could improve this Juve side pretty much across the board. They have spent a lot of money on this side in recent windows, and they've let a lot of talented young players to go through the net, as it were. But I do think it's a squad that is pretty weak across the board, with only probably one elite, potentially elite player in Kenan Yildiz as well. Disappointing return on investment for sure, but I do think their centre-backs is probably the weakest area of their squad, full stop. When Bremer's not playing, and he is back at full fitness now, you're looking at Lloyd Kelly, Kalulu, Rugani. It's not Gatti as well. It's not filling me with confidence that this is a squad that could necessarily get top 4 football, which is why I think they need to look at an elite or potentially elite centre-back in January. This is potentially an ambitious one for January, but across 2026, I think they need to look at a left-footed, ideally centre-back option. And I think a player they could surely look at is Sporting CP's Gonçalo Inácio, who has been playing regularly for Sporting CP and the Portuguese national team. I think he's close to 20 caps for them too for the last 6 seasons over in Portugal. I think he's got a really, really solid CV in terms of his experience level, and his quality on the ball cannot be disputed. He's Sporting CP's second most used player so far this season. They're 5 points behind FC Porto. They'll have in their heads maybe that they can overturn that deficit. Would they want to lose one of their best and most important players in January? Absolutely not. But Juve, it feels like if they want to get into title contention, and they're not totally out of it just yet, something ambitious needs to be done at some stage in 2026. Their days of challenging, winning title after title, year after year, feel like a long time ago now. And Gonçalo Inácio could make a massive difference. So in Portugal, he ranks first for passes completed, first for passes into the final third, first for progressive passes completed as well. Very, very solid in the tackle, decent in the air too, left-footed, has played in a back three system, has played in a 4 at the back as well, has international experience. I just think you build a defence around, say, Inácio, Bremer in the middle, Kalulu on the right. That just feels much more elite. It feels much more promising going forward, especially as Bremer continues his comeback from injury as well. Inácio's got a nice tenacity to him as well. Juve fans, do you think this is even in the realms of possibility for 2026, let alone January? Potentially ambitious. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you know who is the joint top scorers in Europe's top 5 leagues? Of course you do. It's Haaland and Kane. Do you know who's second top scorer in Europe's top 5 leagues? It's Mbappe. He's on 18, one behind the other 2 on 19. But do you know who's level with Mbappe in Europe's top 7 leagues? Ayase Ueda of Feyenoord with 18 goals in the league. He scored 15 or played 15 league games and scored 18 goals. I think this guy would be an amazing pickup for RB Leipzig. The list of talent that Leipzig have sold, particularly attacking talent, since 2023, Szoboszlai, Nkunku, Olmo, Simmons, Sesko, who else? Poulsen left this summer as well. That is very, very difficult to maintain form with all those attacking departures, let alone what it means for the kind of morale of a dressing room. And Ueda is 27. That's a little bit older than most RB Leipzig signings would tend to be. They tend to try and sign players between 19 and 22, let them grow with RB Leipzig, and then sell them on. Ueda would be a slightly different story, but this is a guy who's really, really impressed since joining Feyenoord in 2023. His goal return has gone up and up incrementally every year before exploding this season. He was actually brought to Feyenoord by Arne Slot. This is a guy that was very much in the shadow of Santiago Jimenez before that move to Milan, and that is my one concern with suggesting him for an even bigger club right now. You look at Santiago Jimenez and how much he struggled at Milan. I feel like Ueda probably needs an RB Leipzig middle ground before exploding in the next couple of years even further. And you look at Konrad Harder, only 1 goal in the league so far this season. Romelu's still learning his trade there. Baumgartner and Diomande are their top scorers with 6 league goals. I think they could do with a really experienced striker who has played for a number of years in Belgium, now in the Netherlands, now take the next step up to Germany. I think this would be a really, really sensible move in January and one I'd love to see happen. Can you see it? He is so explosive as well. Really strong, really physically developed. I really like the look of this player. I think RB Leipzig could do a lot worse than signing him in January. To finish the video, I want to talk about Atletico Madrid. Now, Nico Gonzalez is their current option, playing on the left-hand side of a 4-4-2. It does sometimes change to Alex Baena, but generally it's been Nico Gonzalez playing on the left-hand side. And to be honest, I don't think he's an Atletico Madrid level player, if I'm totally honest. Yes, he works very hard, but his goal and assist output has never been particularly impressive, going back to his Fiorentina days. And this season, I think it's just 1 goal and 0 assists in the league and Champions League. I don't think that's necessarily good enough for an Atletico Madrid player. I think they should look to sign an outstanding left winger if they could this January or in the summer. The difficulty with Atletico Madrid is it does feel like Diego Simeone might well leave at some stage in the next, well, in 2026, I just think he might well leave. Do Atletico Madrid want to spend even more money given the investment they've made in the last 2 years in Diego Simeone when they don't know who his replacement's going to be, what sort of signing he'd like to bring in, if they do change from Simeone since, December 2011, I think he's been in charge there. Absolutely remarkable stuff. Amazing tenure, but it does feel like the end is nigh somewhat. They could do with a new injection of ideas, I would say, and not necessarily enthusiasm. I think Simeone's definitely got that, but they just feel like they've got to the end of the road with him. But a player that I think they should look at, very, very punchy for January. In fact, it's probably not going to happen in January, which is why I put Atletico Madrid last. but I think they should have a look at Kairo Matoma. Now, this guy is 28 years old, which is why I don't think he's going to get a move to a club bigger than Atletico Madrid, like a Champions League contender year on year. I just don't think a club would invest that amount of money in him, given the fact that he is 28, and he has had a number of injury issues over the last few years as well. So get this, he missed 11 games since the start of last season with injury, but 31 in 23-24 with injury. But last year, when he was fit, amazing impact still. He ranked 8th in Europe for progressive carries, 22nd for carries into the final third, whilst also contributing 14 league goals. His contract expires in 2027. So again, like a lot of players on this list, it's getting to a situation where he'll probably be sold next summer if they can't force him to sign a new deal. Could Atletico Madrid persuade Brighton with 35, 40 million pounds this January? Maybe. Look, I was watching Brighton at the weekend against my side, Sunderland. They are short of a number of different positions, particularly up front and on the wings in terms of natural wide players. They've got a lot of number 10s. They've got a lot of very similar sort of 8-star players as well. I don't think they'll want to lose Matoma in January. I don't think it sends a great message to their fans and to their players still there. But is Kairo Matoma the sort of player that Atletico Madrid should look to sign in 2026? I think absolutely ready to excel right then, right now. Does his defensive output sit level with some of the other Atleti players? Probably not. But do they need a difference maker now going forward, aside from Sorloth and Alvarez, given the fact that Griezmann's likely to step away this summer, given the fact that Alex Baena has kind of struggled somewhat to get going and it hasn't been fully trusted so far and has had missed some games with injury as well? Potentially. It's always good to have more weapons in your arsenal, and Matoma certainly is one of those. Matoma to Atletico Madrid at some stage in 2026, I think that's as good as he's going to get. I think he'd be an amazing signing. So guys, that was my rundown of perfect January signings for the biggest clubs in Europe. What did you guys think of the list? It's very, very difficult to make signing suggestions in January. Not a lot of clubs have a lot of money, but I did try and stay vaguely realistic. What did you guys think of the list? What was your favourite? What was your least favourite? Let me know in the comments down below. I've got one more long form video for you in 2025, which is a truth episode on January transfers again, but more focused on bigger names in the Premier League with me and Sam. Look out for that later this week. Have a brilliant Christmas. Massive, massive thanks for all your support on this channel since I launched it in July. To have reached over 10,000 subscribers is beyond my wildest dreams. I can't thank you enough. If you did enjoy this video, remember to like it and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.